She metaphored on my Fantazio till I re. Ever since the Xbox showcase in 2023, we've known about the existence of Metaphor ReFantazio, Atlus's newest entry into the RPG genre, and I personally couldn't be more excited for it. Recently, Atlus released an 8-hour gameplay demo, and since it's coming out later this week, I wanted to do my first ever video about what is certainly going to be an amazing game when it releases on October 11th. This is not a sponsored video, by the way. I'm just an Atlus simp. So without further ado, let's get started talking about Metaphor ReFantazio. Before we get to the start screen, we see a little introduction video showing us the state of the world. We see what appears to be someone bribing a church official who says, "God smiles upon the generous." Meanwhile, we see a beggar getting his shit rocked by what looks to be a merchant as he's simply asking for a bit of help. Immediately, this sets the tone of the story being a little bit more dark and gritty than what you would expect an Atlas RPG to have, at least more than Personas anyway. And if it wasn't dark enough, we see another guy, who we learn later is named Luis Guillaburn, assassinating the king of the kingdom of Uchronia on his deathbed, saying that he will be the one to tear down his kingdom by his own hand. Afterwards, we see the officials of Uchronia trying to figure out what happened as well as what to do next, stating that the king has no heirs since the prince had died not too long ago. And then this sneaky motherfucker comes into the room like nothing happened, womps the whole conversation, and says, "Alright, he dead. Who's gonna be the new king?" We then see a cutscene of the protagonist with his fairy friend Gallica heading to the capital city of Grand Trad to infiltrate the army and deliver a message. However, the carriage is stopped by Luis' loyal bandits, eventually leading to a struggle that causes the protagonist to get knocked off of the nearby cliff. Once we get our bearings, Gallica does us a solid and casts Spotify on our mind, allowing us to hear the game's soundtrack, which, by the way, I really like how the music is in an actual form of magic in the game, and it is an interesting way of incorporating diegetic music into the gameplay. After we make it to Grand Trad, we set our sights on the Army Recruitment Center, where we meet another guy about our age named Leon Stroll, a noble who enlisted in the army to try and bring more respect and honor to the Royal Guard. Once we're fitted with our equipment, we head back to the fort a few days away, but the fort is suddenly attacked by a giant monster called a human. Get it? It's a metaphor! Once we check for survivors and make our way to fight said human, Stroll attempts to sacrifice himself to save the protagonist and Gallica, but as he's about to die, the protagonist unlocks the power of archetypes, another nod to Persona, as he rips his heart out of his chest, revealing it to have turned into a hefty metal microphone. He screams into it, changes form, beats the boss, and while we attempt to get Stroll out of there, we finally meet our contact, a man named Grius. After a bit of downtime in the nearby forest, we reveal the message we were sent to give him, that his mission has changed. He is now tasked with the killing of Luis to try and lift the curse off of the prince, who didn't actually die before the events of the game, but was cursed, which has started sapping his strength more and more as he's stuck in a deep sleep kind of state. Stroll, overhearing the conversation, decides to join us on our journey despite Grius not showing him a lot of trust. We then make our way through the forest to try to get back to the capital in time for the king's funeral, hoping to put a stop to Luis' schemes once and for all. Now, that's as far as I'm going to talk about the story because I want everyone to be able to experience this game as spoiler-free as possible. So if you'd like, go and pick up the demo for yourself or wait until the game comes out on October 11th. If you do go the demo route, you'll have the ability to transfer your save data from the demo and continue right where you left off. I'm going to be streaming this the minute the game unlocks, so if you'd like to join me, go to my Twitch at twitch.tv/ptmpopulatethemoon. But enough of the story and self-promoting. How does the game actually play itself? Well, I'm happy to say the game does not disappoint. When you're going through the overworld and dungeons, you have the ability to start striking roaming enemies with whatever weapon you have, which actually changes depending on what archetype you or any of your party members equip. Once you get their stamina gauge down, they'll break, and the time will slow down for you to press a button and start a turn-based battle at an advantage for you and your party. The battle UI is very similar to Persona 5, where actions are tied to any number of buttons on your controller of choice, but as far as mechanics go, it's a lot more like SMT and even to a small extent Final Fantasy. You start with a row of gems on top of your screen representing your turns. These are essentially your press turns from mainline SMT. You can attack to spend one of those gems, but if you hit a weakness or pass to the next party member, it only uses half, giving you the opportunity to stack on a shit ton of damage. But if you miss or the attack is resisted, you lose all of your turns and thus begin the enemy's turn. Now, I did say that there is a sprinkle of Final Fantasy in here, but in what way? Well, they actually introduced a front and back row mechanic. To those who aren't familiar, whenever you have people in the front row of battle, they do more melee damage and are more likely to get hit. However, if they're in the back row, they take less melee damage and are less likely to get hit, making the back row more suitable for any range/magic archetypes. And speaking of archetypes, these things are awesome. The archetypes are essentially your jobs like in Final Fantasy, with bits and pieces of even Digital Devil Saga in there, where depending on what archetype you have equipped, you can do different spells, buffs, etc. But the big thing about this is that once you unlock an archetype, every single member of your party can use it, provided you have the required resources to unlock it for them, which isn't that hard to come by. This provides a wealth of different strategy opportunities for you and your squad to play the game in essentially whatever way you want, and you can even pass skills between archetypes to make others even stronger. Now that's really all as far as the straight up combat gameplay, so let's get on to one of my favorite bits about this game, the presentation. Metaphor is an absolutely beautiful game. Everything has this sort of watercolor/pencil drawing kind of aesthetic. You can see this the most in the highly detailed character portraits and menus. I get that art is very subjective in terms of what appeals to who, but you can't deny that these visuals are in themselves works of art. The only thing I could say is somewhat lacking is the full motion anime cutscenes. From what I can tell at a glance, I think Atlas may have collaborated with A1 Pictures again for the cutscenes, but if I don't have something edited right here after the fact, please correct me in the comments. Other than that, I can honestly say that this game is going to look beautiful no matter what system you get this for, whether it's PC, PS5, or Xbox. Some other side stuff I didn't mention in the other sections, like the extremely well-written codex called the Memorandum. It was very fascinating to read through. Like, the words seemed to kind of just flow off the page, and it was very easy to absorb any new information that was dropped in there when I got a notification for a new entry. And another thing, too, the dialogue in this game feels really genuine and real, especially for the protagonist, who for once actually has a personality and says what dialogue options you pick. He has a whole personality outside of what we, the player, give him. I get that some people are going to say, well, Joker could talk, he had a personality, and to be honest, I don't really think so. Joker never really talked outside of the cutscenes in that game, and he only said maybe like one or two sentences and a couple of one-liners. But this dude right here, John Metaphor, he's talking all over the place. fucking John Metaphor. But in all honesty, that's really all I have to say. I can't wait to play this game when it comes out, and like I said earlier, I'm going to be live streaming this the second it unlocks on my console, so if you would like, I'll leave a link down in the description if you want to leave me a follow, and if while you're down there, why not leave a like and subscribe? It shows me how many people are engaging with the video, and leave a comment to help boost the engagement up a little bit, because I really do want to get better at making these videos. I want to keep making these more, and I would really like to see if anyone has any ideas on how to improve, or have any suggestions for games that they want me to look at or cover, or just media in general, but mostly games. I'm more of a games guy. I don't really watch a lot of media. But anyway, I will see you guys later. Thank you very much for stopping by. Moon out.